Well, first off, Nikki, thank you for joining me. I know it's a busy time of year for you with it being off season. So let's start with that. And with off season, let's kind of talk about building a roster. It can be so complex in this league. So how do you go about building a roster in layman's terms for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, definitely complex. I think you start from the beginning, and the work for any transfer window starts a long time in advance. There's a lot of prep work. You basically start working for the next window from the moment that the previous window ends, and start looking at a lot of different scenarios and contingencies. And I think the work that we try to do for the technical staff in advance is to prepare target lists and to have a lot of candidates available that when you get closer to the window, you're in a position to fully evaluate and make decisions.
As a general manager, how does your role play into all of this, and who helps you make these acquisitions?
Right. So I think the most important role I play is in planning and the prep work. I think you create a strategy, you create player profiles working with the technical staff, and then you try to identify and create a process to identify players that fit those profiles. Of course, we work in lockstep with the technical staff. They have their vision and how they want to build a team, and those needs change. Feels like almost like on a daily basis, but it's something that you have to work through, and you create the plan to start. But of course, that plan changes, and you look for opportunities to improve the squad at any time.
Can you walk me through that process from when you first find a player that you maybe see on film to then going to approach them to then maybe getting them to sign the papers?
Right. Well, I'd say there's different ways that we come across players. There's general scanning or scouting that we do of leagues or teams that we feel are a good fit for MLS or for our team. Other times, we get player recommendations from contacts, from agents, from former players. There are a lot of different sources from which we meet or are introduced to a player. At that point, then we'll do a lot of background work in evaluating that player on video. We'll do a lot of work in evaluating a player's character, personality. We establish their characteristics through a video interview or going to meet them in person. Definitely at the end, the coaching staff or myself will go and travel and meet the player and the agent, watch them play live, meet with the other club to start negotiations. So it's definitely, it can be a long process, like in the case of Yoshimar Yotun, for instance, that we looked at in a previous window, and you keep tabs on how those players are doing, and then when the right opportunity, the right time comes to sign the player, you pull the trigger. Other times it's a very fast process where we have an immediate need that pops up, and we have to pull the trigger very quickly to make changes. So in general, you try to do all that work in advance so that when the time comes to make a decision, you're ready.
As fans, everyone always likes to know what's going on with their favorite team and who they're looking at and potential signings, but why is it so important to keep that as on the down low as possible?
Yeah, I think at this time of year especially, a lot of the players that we are looking to sign are under contract. And the reason why it's important to keep it quiet is because if things become public, at times it can complicate the negotiations, it can make other teams that are competing for the player aware, and it just becomes more challenging. The most important thing is the confidentiality in dealing with the other club. Of course, players are under contract, and you have to be respectful of that and work in the right way.
The technical staff every day could sometimes change, like, oh, we need this player to fill this position right now. When that happens, is it Jason coming to you and saying, hey, I really need a right back, or hey, I really need a defensive player? How does that conversation usually go?
Sometimes it's obvious, like in preseason last year, both of our right backs got injured 2 weeks before the season. And this is where we were fortunate in identifying potential right backs for the future. We had a list ready, and we were able to pull the trigger very quickly. So sometimes it's obvious like that. Other times it's more, there could be a difference of opinion. It could be something evolving on the field as far as tactics, and Jason considering changing the formation, or we feel like we want to move this player to another position. So it depends.
And then you talked about when you are going through the process of looking at a player, you sometimes will video conference them, talk to them on the phone, you go out. In those first initial times when you talk to them, whether it's video interview or just talking to them on the phone, what are the types of questions that you're asking them?
Well, I think the first thing we ask for is just personal questions, getting to know the players. It's really important for us to know what type of player we're getting and what their situation is. One of the things that we find very important is that players who are hungry players that still have the desire and the motivation, the ambition to prove something. So those are the things that we try to pick up on when we're talking to players.
Is it hard though to pick up on that sometimes? Like, because I mean, anyone can sit there on the phone and be like, oh, you know, it's always been my goal to play in the MLS or anything like that. So how do you really weed out those who are hungry as opposed to those?
Yeah, I think it's just, you know, I think getting a sense, after speaking to so many players, you get a sense of which players are really hungry by the way, the answers that they give and the way that they express themselves. I think the ones that are really passionate and really hungry and really want to come here, you can tell, and that comes across very clearly. What
are some of their values that you look for as a player?
You know, I think being team-oriented, seeing how much the players talk about their teammates, how much they talk about the team goals, the success of the team. I think those characteristics are very important.
And what are some of the qualities you look for?
Definitely, you know, just being genuine, being authentic. I think having a passion, a winning mentality. You know, players that you can see in their eye, they get a glint when they talk about having success as a team. I think that's really important.
Is there anything you could take away from this past year now going forward?
Well, definitely. I think you're always learning. I think you're always trying to pick up and improve and make the squad better. I think we definitely went through a learning curve with this group. You know, we felt like this was a team that we could accomplish something, and I thought we made strides on the field in certain ways. Obviously, the results didn't follow, and I think that's what made our decisions for this postseason much more clear and how we want to improve.
What's the biggest takeaway that you got from this season that you can now carry on?
You know, I think the importance of being prepared and having everything working towards one goal. I think that's the most important thing, having all the players being on the same page, having everyone working towards the same goal. I think that's the most important thing.
And as a general manager, what's your short-term vision for the team? So let's talk about just like 6 months or so, 6 to 12 months.
I think putting together a team that we feel can compete to win. I think that's the short-term goal, to be competitive and make the playoffs and have success. Longer term, I think the importance of seeing the bigger picture and putting in place the structure around everything that operates in team operations so that we can have long-term success.
All right. Well, I really appreciate it. Like I said, I know you're a busy man with it being off-season, so I will let you get back to work.
No problem. Thank you.
For discounts, rewards, and one-of-a-kind experiences, visit lionnation.com.